Before the lights of the UFC, before the world knew his name, before the victories, the knockouts, and the dominance, there was war. Khamzat Chimaev was not born into luxury. He didn't have a silver spoon or an easy road to greatness. He was born into war, a world of survival, chaos, and struggle. And that war? It forged him into the beast we see today. This is the story of a man who came from the ashes of destruction and turned himself into a UFC nightmare. 1. Born in the shadows of war. To understand Khamzat Chimaev, you have to understand where he came from. Khamzat was born on May 1, 1994, in the war-torn Republic of Chechnya. For years, Chechnya had been a battleground. 2 devastating wars between Russia and Chechnya, rebels left the region in ruins. Entire cities were bombed, families were torn apart, and young boys grew up not knowing peace, but only violence. The streets were not playgrounds. They were battlegrounds. As a child, Khamzat learned quickly. Life was a fight. You either survived or you didn't. 2. Escaping death, chasing a dream. At just 5 years old, Khamzat and his family made a life-changing decision. They fled Chechnya, leaving behind the war, the destruction, and the only home they had ever known. They moved to Sweden, seeking peace, hoping for a better life. But for Khamzat, the battle wasn't over. Life as a refugee wasn't easy. He arrived in a foreign land, unable to speak the language, with nothing but a dream and a fighting spirit. He was no longer dodging bullets, but he was still fighting, to survive, to adapt, and to prove he belonged. 3. Wrestling. The battle begins. Sweden gave him safety, but it didn't take away his fire. As a kid, Khamzat was always looking for a challenge. He found it in wrestling. The first time he stepped onto the mats, something clicked. He was built for this. The struggle, the grind, the pain. It was nothing compared to what he had already been through. And from the moment he started wrestling, he dominated. He didn't just beat his opponents, he crushed them. Khamzat quickly became one of Sweden's most promising wrestlers, winning 3 national championships. But even that wasn't enough. He wanted more. He wanted to fight. 4. Finding his destiny. MMA calls. Wrestling was just the beginning. Khamzat knew deep inside he was born to be a fighter. In 2017, he made the transition to MMA. And from the moment he stepped into the cage, one thing was clear. He was different. He wasn't just another wrestler trying MMA. He was a ferocious, relentless, and unstoppable force. In his first fights, he didn't just win. He annihilated his opponents. And then, the UFC came calling. 5. The monster unleashed in the UFC.
Nice job by Chimaev. Oh my goodness. He's talking to Dana.
Chimaev. Hey, so what now? Say something. So what now? All you boys. This is Chechnya.
Stretches Chimaev once again.
I'm more dangerous guy here. I got a coming for everyone. I kill everybody. Allah Akbar.
It's match by Timex for the top. Timex watches the people looking and keep on ticking since 1854.
I have 25 minutes with him. He has 25 minutes with me. And, you know, I'm going to leave it all there.
I don't think so. We'll need 25.
Give this time. Coming to a title fight near.
That's it. Allah Akbar. That's it. Allah Akbar. That's it. Allah Akbar.
In 2020, the world was introduced to Khamzat Chimaev, and he didn't waste a single second making his presence felt. Khamzat made history by winning 2 fights in just 10 days, the fastest turnaround victory in modern UFC history. His wrestling was overwhelming. His striking was brutal. His pace was unlike anything the UFC had ever seen. The world took notice. Every fighter had one question: who can stop this man? But here's the thing. When you've already survived war, when you've already fought for your life, what's a fight inside a cage? 6. Nearly losing it all, the biggest fight of his life. Everything was going perfectly until the biggest challenge of his life hit him. In 2021, after dominating the UFC, Khamzat was struck down by COVID-19. His lungs were severely affected. He couldn't train, he couldn't breathe properly, and at one point, he even announced his retirement. The war within him wasn't over. But warriors don't quit. Fighters don't give up. Slowly, Khamzat clawed his way back. He recovered, he rebuilt himself, and when he returned, he was more terrifying than ever. 7. The future champion? Now, Khamzat Chimaev stands on the brink of history. He's undefeated, he's unstoppable, and he's one fight away from UFC gold. The question is no longer if he will be champion, it's when. From war-torn Chechnya to the top of the fight game, this is the story of a warrior. This is the war that made Khamzat Chimaev a UFC champion in the making. Call to action. Is Khamzat Chimaev the next UFC champion? Will he dominate the division? Let us know in the comments below. And if you love MMA stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more fight breakdowns and fighter stories. Till next time, stay fighting.